Hi. Okay, well, review time again today, and I thought I would do a review of Curtains, a slasher movie from 1983, directed by Richard Kiepke. This is a movie I hadn't really heard of until I saw a review of it on Sinister Cinema's channel, and normally I wouldn't do a review of it this close to having seen a review, but as Jason, who runs the channel, said, inspiration is a good thing, so here we go. First of all, the director, Richard Kiepke. He changed his name to that of the director in the movie, Jonathan Stryker, in what may be one of the first incidents of meta filmmaking I've ever seen. There were probably many others before this, but I can't think of any at the moment. It's possible also that Kiepke didn't want his name associated with the film for some reason. Honestly, I don't know why that would be, as it's a good example of the genre, and traditionally, if a director does take their name off a film, they usually go by Alan Smithy, so I think this is largely a matter consideration, to be honest. The story is as horrific as it is interesting. A director and the female star of his latest film, Audra, decide that she, the actress, should be committed to an asylum so that she could learn what it feels like to be mad, or surrounded by mad people, or to be seen as mad, or at least to be madness adjacent, in a sense. The only problem is that while she's in the asylum, her part is recast, and she is essentially left there to rot by the director, though she does make it out eventually. The director, at this point, is holding a casting session at his house, consisting of 5 rather attractive women. There are supposed to be 6, but one is killed before the story really gets going, though I will come back to her later. The 5 potential starlets start getting knocked off one by a killer in a rather hideous mask who uses a doll as bait, you could say, for some of the victims. The doll catches their attention, they go to investigate, they die. So basically, there is meat to the plot here. It's not just a bunch of high school or college kids who get killed for little other reason than being beautiful and representative of the protagonist to some extent. Some people may think that there is little art to the slasher genre, and in some cases that may be perfectly accurate. I mean, I've seen some terrible ones, to be honest. Here, though, the performances, particularly from John Vernon, who plays Stryker, the director, and Samantha Eggar, who plays Samantha, are excellent and, in my view, very believable. Kiepke clearly has a love of the genre, and there are many references here to the Giallo movies of the 70s and early 80s, from the likes of Dario Argento. The black-gloved assailant, the mask, the doll, the way he uses colour, all remind the viewer of a film like Deep Red, which is my own personal favourite of the Giallo movies. The cast of asylum patients are also very believable. The scene where a patient undergoes a lobotomy, for example, is particularly memorable, and the actresses playing the starlets are excellent as well. You can believe that they will do anything for the part, including committing murder and sleeping with the director. There is even an early appearance from Michael Winkert as Matthew, the director's assistant. Winkert obviously going on to be a big star of 90s films such as Strange Days, The Crow, and Alien Resurrection. The symbolism in the movie is rather interesting, I think, and is again reminiscent of a Giallo movie. For example, the mask is that of a hag, essentially an ugly older woman, though it looks a little like Lawrence Tierney, I think, or maybe Pruneface from Dick Tracy. Given who the killer turns out to be, I think it's probably representative of how they see themselves aging, at least in terms of how women in Hollywood are sometimes seen. But more importantly, the character that they're auditioning for, who is something of a monster in her own right. And of course, at the most basic level, it's a mask rather than their true face. It hides who they really are, which is part of being an actor to some extent, and also allows them to partially dissociate from the murders, as well as inspiring fear and confusion in the victim. The symbolism surrounding the doll, I think, is a little more complex. We see it just before and during the first murder, and it belongs, in fact, to the first victim. Before she's killed, she dreams about the doll attacking her, which I believe is significant. She admits to her boyfriend that she will do anything to get the part, effectively turning herself into little more than a prop, or a plaything, if you like, to be used by the director as he sees fit, and this idea inspires a certain amount of guilt in her, which is played out in her dream. This, I think, is what the doll represents within the movie and why it's left in the vicinity of the victims, this objectification. They too, in life, are playthings for Stryker to essentially manipulate and have sex with if he so chooses, during their stay at his house during the casting. There may be a representation of how women age in the movie business as well, but I think a good part of the symbolism here is objectification, and of course in death they are playthings for the killer. Adding further to this idea, I see it as no coincidence that one of the big final scenes, near the end of the movie, takes place inside a prop store. Everything and everyone is seen as a plaything here, there to realize a vision and nothing more than that. The reveal of the killer, or killers, is surprising to an extent. It's fairly quick and fairly quiet, but makes perfect sense. Some people kill to get what they want because it's in their nature to do so. The final scene also leaves room for doubt regarding the reality of what has happened. Is the entire film merely the lunatic imaginings of a deranged mental patient, or, as is more probable, admittedly, are they committed for the murders they've perpetrated? Probably the latter, but the former has been touched upon in films in the past. An interpretation of American Psycho, for example, is that Bateman is a fantasist and has actually killed no one through the course of that story, though that is more prevalent in the book, really. The music and sound design are serviceable, but not particularly memorable, at least to me, while the set design, particularly of Stryker's house, takes a lot from the Giallo style, the use of colour, etc. A nice touch is that in a few of the scene transitions a literal curtain opens to reveal the scene, which is both a callback to the name and a possible reference to the idea that the whole film is, in a sense, a performance of a sort, which, given the final scene of the movie, further implies that what we've just watched might not be real, or at least the way it happened may have been different from what we've seen. In conclusion, then, this film is well worth a watch in my view. The Giallo elements elevate what could be a rather bland-looking piece and add flavour to certain aspects of the story. The acting, all around, is believable, and the symbolism is quite fascinating, not least because it's open to so many interpretations, which I think was deliberate. It feels like the audience are expected to do a little work in this one, and it does feel rewarding on that level by the end of the film. So, if you like intelligent, multi-layered slasher movies, with stories that are to some extent ambiguous, You will find something to like here, I would have thought. The film itself is available on YouTube, and I will leave a link to it in the description for those who want to check it out. As always, however, and with all the above being said, I hope you enjoyed my review of Curtains. Please like, share, comment and subscribe, and I will speak to you soon. Thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.